How many of you know exactly to the millimeter where your fork bottoms out and have marked it with a felt pen or a piece of tape? So if you are doing a heavy braking exercise, are you bottomed out? Everybody see that cable tie? If there's no black dot there to show where bottom out is, does it have any relevance? Is it worthless? So unless I know where that is, where bottom is and mark it, what's the point of the cable tie? Other than, I'm really good with my brakes. So everybody can do this by themselves. Depending on your knees and hips, you might have to ask somebody else to do it for you. Side stands are very useful. So if you can't see on the back, you'll have to stand up for a minute, and then you can sit down again. So if you stretch the bike out using the side stand, I'm going to measure from the end of the gold here down to the bottom of the chrome tube. And that's going to give me a total distance. So that distance, which I know what it is anyway, is 150 millimeters. So how many of you with your owner's manual went, okay. So in the book, it says I have 140 millimeters of travel. So where does the dot go? Who's the mathematician? 10 mil up. If I did that, and I'm practicing my braking, am I going to get better? Sure. Well, how close now am I to actually bottoming the suspension out if I've only got 10 mil up as my maximum? There's not much there, is there? So as you get better and practice a skill, that cable tie is going to go further and further and further. And if you don't have the black dot to check where you are, because your skills are improving, when you come to that crisis and you do that, what comes next? That. Now you've got to let go. You don't have a choice. You've got to put the rear wheel down so you can get 2 sets of brakes working for you again. So takeaway number 1, which every single one of you can do with a tape measure and a pen: year, make, model, and specs. Measure it extended. What is my bottom out? Never put a cable tie on the left leg. Why? Because everyone can see it. You could walk across something and go, whose bike is this? You just paid it forward. When did you last reset your cable tie? What? Is that bottomed? Where's your bottom out mark? And that might be the end of the conversation, but you could have just saved a life. We all need that front end to work as well as possible. That's fair, eh? Because that's all we got. Most of us don't have the brain power to put the rear on first before the front in a crisis, unless you practice that skill set over and over and over. So until you get that embedded, we're always going to go for the front, and we're always going to yank on it. So that is by far the most important thing you can ever do in your motorcycling career with every bike you own. By far. Because that will always tell you I'm safe. No glazed looks. Excellent. Second part. Show of hands. How many change their engine oil at 2,500 Ks? Too short? 5,000 Ks. Okay, 8,000. Yeah, we're thinning out now. Over 10? Engineer? Or broke? There you go. Engineer is the difference between long chain and short chain molecules. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. But it's research where you find the information out. How many of you change your suspension oil every 6,000 kilometers? Oh. Okay. That's a great question. Can you change it? You know that owner's manual? It's got dots in it. Hey, for stuff that needs to get done. Do you know where all the dots are? Okay, so there's a valid point here. Is there a dot for that? If there's not a dot, should you change it? It's a question. So if there isn't a dot and you don't know, and you are doing the honest to God's truth, best maintenance you can on your bike because you fulfill every dot in every column at the right odometer reading, you're dead on. But you're dead on because you're binary and literal. It says this, I'm going to do this, so I'm doing that. And that's perfect because that's your bare minimum. But I hope from what we're doing tonight, you reconsider that. And those that are mechanical, maybe you help somebody else do it. But more importantly, you actually, before doing anything, take a step back. So everybody in the emergency services, the first thing they do when they get to a situation, survey the scene. So I step back and look at the motorcycle, look at the person I'm dealing with, and try and get a sense of what I've got. Then I'll take a step in by asking questions and looking at specific items. So, how many of you have seen me go through a bike in YouTube? Great, those numbers are going to go through the roof because there's a lot of you that haven't. So at this point, there's a resource there for you because you're not going to remember everything I give you. It's going to be 4 things tonight. That's all I'm going to go through. But at that point, you can always go there and find it out. How many have forks that are non-adjustable? It's about a quarter. Okay. So you may feel this doesn't apply to you and you're wrong. What it applies to is the fact that what the bike does. And I will give you an example at the end of several motorcycles where I've never put the key in, 0 kilometers, and changed the forecourt. But you'll understand why. So, usually this is where people go quiet. So, this is a pass or fail situation. It is not an or oh, or general hand gestures on your face. Don't do that. A fail is a bounce where it goes up and comes back over. That is an absolute fail. Are we clear? Is anybody feeling their vocal cords are quite strained at the moment and they don't want to contribute? Just checking. So, your kitchen tap at home, where's maximum flow? And don't BS me. Where is it? BS. How many of you have done a flow study to know exactly where that position is that maximum flow is reached? Okay. On a motorcycle, we need to know, and it's something called range. So, when I bounce it, I'm going to bounce it 3 separate times. For now, you can be quiet and observe, but count the number of bounces and see if you can get it roughly accurate in your head. And that side won't be able to see much. So let's do that. Ready? Bounce number 1. All right. How many say 5? Thank you, Jim. How many are on the fence about 5?
4 to me.
So most people 4 to 5? Yeah. Anybody say 3? Okay. So then one last time.
I probably wasn't counting the initial.
So 3 to 4 becomes pretty apparent. 40% of all fatalities on a motorcycle are single motorcycle accidents and loss of control going into a corner. How's that helping you exactly? How many bounces? 3 to 4? How many of you ride through a corner, let's say 85 to 100K, and stay out of the gas for a while, until you can see your exit, and then go. How many of you get on the gas and get out of it? And maybe get on it a little bit and wait and go. How many of you use your brakes all the way around the corner until you can see where you're going and then accelerate? So what you just saw, what does that mean in the corner? It means fork goes down, wheel turns. Now what happens? Fork extends, bike wants to stand. I'm not done yet. I've got to do this 3 more times. And then it'll settle out. Could everybody in this room do that push test? Most of you. Because all I'm doing is holding the brake. Can't tell you how many videos I've seen of people pushing the bike without the brake and chasing it. And I get the bill. So at that point, what is that doing to you in the corner? So when you look at motorcyclists that have been in it for a long while, this shoulder's really long. This shoulder's quite short. And that, if you look quietly and do it over a period of time, is gospel. It's the funniest thing you'll ever see. But it's truthful. Because they spent their whole life getting control of the motorcycle. So if this is a tap, that tap is wide open. And if it's wide open, it can do what it wants. Agreed? Certainly does. I have 12 total clicks available to me in this specific fork. So I am going to go halfway. Range means, where does it start working? If this gives me 4 minimum bounces, is it working? No. So that adjustment was pointless. Just like that or this with the tap. We choose the velocity of the water to fill the glass. Your kids, like we did, full on, face under, run out, not turn it off. But we need to know if we have adjustment, what do we do next? So if that doesn't work, which way do I go with the tap? Come on. I need more. So more will always be clockwise. So we're all good on that? Because sometimes people get confused with direction. So there's 3. $5, anybody? No?
What are we at? 9 out of 12.
9 out of 12. Now, this is where we say pass or fail. What was that? A bit more enthusiasm? Thank you. I have 3 clicks left. The odds aren't looking good for me, is it? So, let's go 2 of the 3. Now, what that means in real terms, everybody knows the shape of an ice cream cone. Super sharp at the bottom. That super sharp is going in a big hole. As you mow that ice cream cone into the hole, that gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, until the oil's screaming, trying to get through. Does that make sense? Because that's the simplest analogy I can give you. Feel free to yell fail when it is appropriate. And that is appropriate when? After the first bounce. Agreed? Oh, come on. That went to the second bloody bounce. That's it. That's all I got. Now again, is there any change? So where's that ice cream cone in the hole? It's all in, eh? There's not much gap there. Correct. So what does that tell you about the ice cream cone? Or it's too short. One or the other, right? Or the ice cream cone is one of those super cheap ones with the bottom cut off, so it doesn't drip all over you. It's a square one, because that exists too. So the part there is when you're going into that corner and that breathing starts to slow down and the heart rate slows down and breathing out is too hard because you keep sucking air in. Are you holding on? And that's it. So the test will be get to a nice corner. 85 is for me, 100 all day long. Rain or snow, doesn't matter on these roads because the chip seal is so aggressive. There's lots and lots of grip, especially in the South Island. I'll open my hand up. Now, if the bar pushes my hand back and then lets it go forward, what's it doing? It's bouncing. Everybody here capable of that? But you have to ride for 20 minutes to get the oil hot before you test it. That makes sense? Yeah?
So that means it's pointless doing the adjustments with the cold oil?
For demonstration purposes, 100% correct. You going to go ride this for me for half an hour? Oh, okay. But you're right, you're on the money. So that's an excellent question. Because hot oil is much thinner than cold oil. And the longer you leave it, how many have got 30K on their forks right now or more? Anyway, moving on. Yes, let's not go there. Everybody know what a lava lamp is? There's some young faces that may not. So you owed a lot. Take care of them tonight, later. But you're riding a lava lamp. Old, really thick cold oil that turns into tap water eventually. So all of you, without adjusting anything on your bike, if you have adjustments, can go out on a 10 to 15 Celsius day. In the first 10 minutes, does it beat you up? After that, is there a period of where everything's nice and then it starts beating you up again? And that's your oil viscosity going from goo to somewhat oil to tap water. So as you ride your bike over a period of time, even if you don't want to touch anything, how does the ride evolve? The longer that oil's been in there, the bigger that window. So you're riding around on a bike, especially if you don't have any way of adjusting it, on something that is telling you how to behave. If you like that at home, more power to you. Enjoy. This? I paid for this. This needs to do what I need it to do, and I only have 2 wheels, and I am completely vulnerable on this. So if I can't get this under control, why am I riding the damn bike? How much is a bottle of fork oil? $30. How many are mechanical? Take wheels out. You're on your way. The video for this takes you step by step, use the pause button. The first time you do it, it's going to take you 45 minutes. The third time you do it, it's going to take you 15. It's quick, simple, and easy, and it's called dump and run. Upside down forks, telescopic forks, both are there. Both free, have at it. Now we go this end of the bike. Do you want to ride a seesaw? You all are. Well, maybe not all. Maybe there's a couple that are not. So, down the bottom of a shock on mine, in this instance, is a rebound adjuster. So let's open the tap up. Put it one back. Now, the easiest thing to look at is here. So let me spin it a little more so you can see it. If that double bounces like the front, what are the cables going to do? Boing. What is that doing to me on corner entry? And when? When's the important part? Incorrect. Too late in the process. What's the first thing you do when you approach a corner? So what's this doing? Send. Then what does it do? Sit you down. What does that do to the front end? Ooh. So you are in a push condition. You can easily, after that 20-minute warm-up, roll out of the gas smoothly. Do I pop and sit? And pop again and sit down and it levels off. Then you know that is incorrect. Simple? Okay. Pass or fail? There's murmuring in the crowd. Thank you. Now, is that good enough? What should I do now? Or less? Go both ways, eh? Right, so let's go back a little bit. How many did I put in? 10 is correct. Excellent, gold star. So let's take 4 out. Okay. No ribbing. Who said pass? Okay, watch carefully. You'll see the second bounce. Well, then move your ass. Get down here. Oh, wait, is that too hard? I'm sorry. So can you see it just pop? So, one of the things I'm going to ask you to do tonight is use your eyes critically. And that is that and this. Does it bounce? Does it not bounce? Am I using all my travel? Is my bottom out marked? Inside of this shock is a silver shaft. That's inside the spring. Every bike has that. Some of your bikes have a plastic cover on it to protect it from rocks and debris and all the other stuff that gets in there. So you can't see it. But when you can, how many of you get in there and clean it with a Q-tip? I don't know anybody that's ever cleaned a shock with a Q-tip that's buried. A Panigale with it on the side? It's pristine, it's perfect. Any shock that is immediately visible, twin shockers on the outside of an older bike or a touring type bike, if they're on there, they're clean. These, no. What if that shock shaft is 100% clean? What have we got? A problem. Because if you never washed your forks, they'd be somewhere dirty. Fairly consistently, maybe. Bit different between city riding and out in the countryside, of course. But there'd be a difference. So if this is super clean, I'm in trouble. Because I am reaching bottom. And most of the places I'll reach bottom is when you're going down the road and it dips and comes back. And the faster you go, the more close to bottom you're going to get in that compression, or what we call a G out. And the shock releases. The hardest thing you'll try and achieve, and you'll give it a go, is get off your bike with your mates and not talk. And tell them to bugger off and get your coffee. I have to observe my bike. I have to check if I am safe. Because it's really hard to do. I can't even get racers to do it after a race, which was 6 laps. They can't. You're just not wired that way. So it takes a bit of self-discipline. The easy way to do it is go out on a test ride day. Now your head is in a completely different space. I'm going to see what my bike does. As soon as you put it in first, you're thinking, feeling, what's the bike doing? How's that first 20 minutes? How does the bike change? All right, I'm going to do my hard braking. Where am I? And you approach it in a very, not necessarily logical, but if you're wired that way, that's great, but methodical. Now I'm going to check my rear shock. Oh, I washed it with a power washer. Tiny bit of grease on a paintbrush. Put it in the middle third of the shock shaft. What's it going to leave? A ring. You know exactly where you're at. You can reach in there and wipe it off if you want. But at that point, am I safe? If you do that on a very regular basis, every couple of months, you are always safe. But when you run out of adjustment here, the back of the hand's coming. Because you've been counting clicks and you know you're at the end. So if you're 3 to 4 clicks out, what should you be doing? How far are you booked out? I need a fork oil change. Then you can budget, not go, oh shit, I've got a leaky fork, I'll fix it. Well, what about the other one? You fix one fork? Really? I know it happens. I've seen red oil in one leg and blue oil in the other. So at that point, if something blows, depending on the mileage, if it's less than 4K, keep the oil, put it back in. Top it off, get it back to where it belongs. If it's over 8, change it. Now remember I talked about a brand new bike that I wouldn't put a key in? So a while back, I think it was 2020, did a class in Masterton for some dealers. Would you consider, if a bike fails the bounce test, of putting the right oil in the bike before it's sold? Strong reception, very positive reception to that. Because you want the bike as stock, there you go. You want the suspension set up properly, here's this. You want all the ergonomics done and fixed, here's that. No brainer. So, brand new, 0Ks, pass or fail. Ninja 400, SV650. List goes on and on and on. When you're looking at a new bike, I think you might do it differently now. Good question. Anybody seen Life of Brian? I am Jehovah. If I change this, I am devaluing the product in their eyes. Does that make sense? Because this is supposed to work for everyone on the planet, everywhere. From a 50-kilo rider to a 160-kilo rider. It's supposed to work. So changing the settings at the dealership is actually not permissible.
Does it have an effect on us being right?
We're going to cover that. That's when we get complicated. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to cover that next because they've got quite a few tape measures to give away tonight, don't we? Can we get those ready? Because I'm going to get into that in a minute. The shiny side up ones. Brand new bike. This has adjustment. Okay, let's do the same test. Okay. Hang on. We've got adjusters. So we have 2 preload adjusters. We have a compression adjuster in the right leg, and we have a rebound adjuster in the left leg. Oh, that's interesting. You're not going to be able to do this at a dealership, guarantee you. And I will do this very carefully because it's brand new. Because I don't want to buy a new fork cap. That's at 1 click from maximum. Let's put it on maximum. Perfect. But I got nothing left. So the question you ask is, in this service manual for this bike, what is the oil by brand and what is the viscosity they say? Because it's obviously not going to work for long, is it? Can I have that changed to the next level up? Or 2 levels up? Because you can have whatever you want, but if you know what you're fighting, what problem you're having, you can make an intelligent suggestion right away without being trained in fluid dynamics and oil and center stokes and VI, and because fork oil, unlike engine oil, has 0 standardization, none. Somebody's 5 is somebody's 2 is somebody's 7. So you Google a fork oil viscosity chart if you want to learn more, figure out what's being used here. That's obviously at one click out, brand new, not going to work for me, so I want 2 up. I'm going to try that. It's $30 if you do it yourself.
Do you use the viscosity index?
I do. That's the first port of call. The ideal one to use is the 40 center stoke number because of heat, just from friction. So at that point, you can all Google a fork oil viscosity chart. What have I got? What does it come with? I want that. So at that point, that's easily doable, and it gives you your bike time and adjustment and the ability to pick your setting. Now the other part is this has a compression adjuster. So think of rebound as a trampoline. If you drop in from 4 meters, where are you going? You'll hang off that. Probably punch a hole in the ceiling too. But if you walk across it, So compression is how much it goes down. And the further it travels, there's more stored energy to be released. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So if I push this gently, let's take all of my compression out. I got to find the stock setting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 9 of 17. It's kind of halfway. So all the way out, how far will it go? There's a lot of movement, eh? So at that point, if that ice cream cone is not short and skinny, but is actually longer and fairly robust, let's go in 9. It should not bounce as much because it's not given the energy initially. So it's working. So the question is now, if we close that tap and jam the top of the ice cream cone all the way in, now what? Doesn't want to move much. So we know the damping in this leg is actually pretty good. So I'm going to change the oil in this leg because I don't need to worry about that. And that is because these are single function forks. This does energy release. This does bump compliance. This one's good. I only need to fix this one. Easy enough? Just by doing a screwdriver. Now let's put it back to stock. And while we're here, let's take a look at the back. Does it double bounce? Now, if you've got a good eye, it's actually 2 speeds. See it? So on the way up, it does what? It goes pop. Do we have a screw? Yes, we do. Yeah, baby. Okay, let's turn the tap in. What we got to lose? Got everything to gain. That's pretty consistent. Is that fair? Now, how's the whole bike? When you've got this, you have a flight attendant grin for hours and hours because the bike hits the bump and stays still. So, planted, on rails, glued to the road, all those phrases are things you will think of. The biggest part is your energy depletion will be 70% per corner. Yep. Go.
Compression versus the rebound on the front.
Yep.
Both of those tests you did, from my perspective, seem very close to each other. So you started off with a rebound test, okay, and you adjusted it until you were happy with it. But then you adjusted the compression, which to test that on, you just seem to do more repeated ones before you check to see where it starts. With the rebound, you did one good one and then see how it behaves.
Okay.
If the compression is set incorrectly, would that not influence the rebound as well?
You are correct. If it doesn't travel as far, there's less energy stored and it less kick. So you're 100% right. So for the purpose of the test, there's no point the bike doing this and me pushing on the front end on the compression side. Control this, get this correct, take it all out, go in the middle, go to the end. Does it actually shorten the amount of travel used with the same energy input? If I leave this incorrect, then it's going to keep coming back with more energy, which will kick it higher back in the stroke. So if I control this first, same as I'm controlling this in the rear, then at that point, when I go everything to middle to maximum, then that gives you a good feel. If you wanted to do it with the rebound adjuster all the way off, you would put a cable tie on there and you push it down and you wouldn't care about how it kicked back, right? You can't. And then you try all three settings and see when you pushed, if you can be laboratory consistent in the energy you put in, does that compression setting give me this much with nothing, that much in the middle, and that much with everything? Does it give me 3 different numbers? But you're gonna have to let it kick. So it may not give you as equal a result, so do both. And then compare the results between both. Does that answer your question?
We'll need to sleep on it. But
Okay.
I saw you doing similar yesterday, and afterwards I was going,
That's good, because you're thinking about it.
but you do the rebound first and then.
I will always set that first, because then I know what I'm getting back is consistent.
So even if the compression happens to be rock hard or whatever at that point.
Which we found out on the Moto Marini. Front end was locked up, so I had to open it up first to check it. And then go into the settings after the fact. So there's a process. It just depends which way makes sense in your head and the way you think. So, how long will this last? Depends how hard you ride. You push the living daylights out of this all the time, it might last 600 Ks. Oh, there's my screwdriver. Okay, I'll go fix that. Oh, that means I have to go ride again. Oh, sorry. I'll be back. With somebody that rides nice and fun, recreationally, just wants to ride, shut the world out, and go for a ride. It might last you 1,500, 1,800 Ks. Depends on you. But that and this will tell you. That's why you have to test, ride, day. So from the day you think you've got it close, 800 Ks on that odometer reading, put that on the fridge. So you have a prompt. You have something that tells you it's time. And then you go out for a test ride day, which is totally different. So, cable tie, bottom out. Front rebound, shock travel. Are we all good on all of that? Now, servicing. Non-adjustable fork, how long is that going to last? 2,000 Ks, maybe. Again, depending on the rider, But the maximum I've got out of it on the Ninja 400 with 15 weight oil versus 5 stock on the street is basically 2,200. Everybody's seen feathering and cupping on tires, right? That's the rebound, doing this. And if on some of the tires you run your hand around the circumference, it is lumpy from the tire. Doing that down the road, which you may not feel, because our best and worst quality as a human is adaptation. So how would I respond to a person that came to me and said, you set my bike up 6,000 Ks ago, it's perfect. Because it can't be perfect, can it? It just can't. What's happened is perfect adaptation. So that's why the test ride day interval is so critical. Everybody can fix this. Not everybody gets it, but everybody understands the why. If you want to be safe on your motorcycle, regarding suspension, it may need a screwdriver, it may need an Allen key, it may need a spanner, but you can have a go. Write down what you have, and there's a video called Clicks, Turns, and Faces, and that shows you how to map your bike. Where is everything to start with? All you have to do then is write down what you change. Did it give you permagrin, or did it make you frown? That's it. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. You didn't like it? Undo what you did, which is written right here. You can self-test easily. You just need a book and a pen and a tool. So have a go. But first and foremost, before you start on anything else, where's my bottom out? How much travel am I using? We need this to support us as best as possible. And service these more than you should. So my race bike, if somebody leaves me that delightful 4 inches, which is 3 feet, can I take it? How else is my bike set up? I'm not a very good rider. Otherwise, I'd be at nationals. I'd have helicopters and condos and stuff. But I know I can take that gap and protect the person I'm racing because I can trust this. My fork oil is changed every 15 hours. Period. If I'm tuning for a professional, it is every day. Because that oil keeps degrading. How hard do they ride? That's their job. Do your damn job or you're fired. And I can look at the data and see, are they at 55 degrees of lean and 100% throttle? Punt. Get out. I don't have time for you. So at that point, I have to give them as much consistency as possible. So I change the oil. I change the brake fluid every practice. What does it cost? It's negligible. Brake fluid is good for 90 days and it absorbs water. How much is brake fluid? Not a lot. A lot cheaper than when your brake lever comes to the bar, because that's the amount of water in the lever, in the system. So the maintenance part, if you can up the ante a little bit, you can always depend on your bike. The more you up that ante, the more consistent it's going to be, the more confident you will be when riding it. And you will consistently expend less energy. All good on that? Last thing. How many of you changed tires recently? How many of you switched brands of tires? How many of you kept with the same brand, but changed the size of the tire? Sometimes we have to. We get a flat, there's nothing available, we've got to spoon something on, eh? Are they level? Any of you ever thought of doing that? Do you think every 180/55 tire from any manufacturer is the same circumference? Oh, you shouldn't be shaking your heads. Right, so they're different sizes. If you had to change tires and you had a 190 and all that was available was a 180, what happened to the handling of your bike in this situation?
From fatter to bigger, you said?
If you had to go to this smaller tire, how did it change your handling? And which way are you going to go in the corner? So you're going to go slower because it doesn't feel right. But if you get on the throttle, where are you going? So you get out. It's too late. Conversely, if this was the latest, greatest version of this tire and you spooned it on, but it's that much bigger, what happened to your braking? A lot less, because you're instantly pitched forward, so you'll probably be able to use only half your brakes. So when we change tires, there's no bad tire, there's just bad information. So first thing, circumference. If you can, and if it is possible, can you line your tire up with the tire you're looking at? Is it bigger? Or is it not? Same goes for the front tire. What am I doing to my bike? The next piece that's really important. How many of you seen the tire? How many seen the tire videos I do? Good. That's going to explode. It's going to be great. Is that going anywhere? Just isn't, is it? So how many of you are ADHD? This is your tire. Every single imperfection of the road is coming through to you, and your brain will go, hot towel. Oh. Because you're getting the frequency of the information you need. For many of you that just ride recreationally and want to, who's cutting the grass? Oh, there it is. This is not the tire for you. So this is about carcass construction. This is a very hard carcass tire. Does it need a ton of pressure? No. What if I got a tire and I sat on it and it went straight to the floor? It is ridiculously soft, and there are some tires you can pick up by hand and figure of 8. By hand. So when you put the tires on, are you buying a hard carcass tire or are you buying a soft carcass tire? So that's part 2, height or circumference and carcass. And the third thing is this. If my bike was a 2008 GSXL 1000, these tires never existed then. Should I follow the sticker? That's an interesting question, eh? So that sticker was there for the tires that came on it, which back then was a BTO 16, Bridgestone. Should that apply now, today, to these brand new tires? In your head, you're going, shit, what do I say? What do I,
Are the pressures for on the sticker what's made for the rim of rather than actual tire?
That's what it comes with, right?
That was contemporary for
Right.
the year of manufacture, right?
So on these tires, instead of using the sticker, would you use the range of pressure on the sidewall of the tire that they give you? Does that make sense? Is that acceptable? Does that emotionally work with you? Or logically, you see the pathway there? If it says 3642, the bane of my life, for 2 people and 1 person, does that make sense? And in the PowerPoint presentation, I've got that on a CBR 600. 3642, solo, 2 riders. How is that possible? So the critical thinking piece here is when you get new tires, can you, if you cannot compare them, shove your hand in, and that gets about there, and put your new one on. If I can get up to there in, what happened to the front end? before I put the key in it. Where's my head? What happens with the rear if I can only fit my fingernail in where before I could fit half my hand? You're on a bloody unicycle or a bar at 4 a.m. when you should have gone home a long time ago. How are you going to manage that motorcycle? How much stress is in the front end? Where's the balance point of the bike? So if you take that step back and take a look at the situation that you are now faced with, because for some people, brand new rubber is a form of Viagra. Before you take the blue pill and go down the rabbit hole, can you take that step back? Did my bike go this way? Well, then I can't brake. It's going to turn and then not turn at all until I get on the gas to bring the chassis back. Is it here? I can't get on the gas at all until I finish the corner. Okay, go. Did it go down? Actually closer to the ground. So now getting it side to side, it's not quite a hernia, but you've got to work on it to flick it side to side. Or is it up in the air, and at 85 to 110, it does this? All because the tires were changed. So the usual rule of thumb is, when you get a bike dialed into a set of tires, get a second job, a heat control room, buy 3 or 4 sets, maybe 5, and put them in there. Ride sensibly and smart until the last set of tires, and then see if they're still in production. And if they're in production, great. And if they're not, call your mates, get a bunch of alcohol, have a wake, because you're going to have to start all over again to get the bike where you want it. Are the forks welded in place? So if the bike's here, I can push the forks down and raise the front. If the bike's here, I can push the forks through and lower the front. You've got options, but you have to take that step back and think about your options. What can I do to make it right? And if I can't, we've got people that know.
So how do you change the rear?
So,
If you're changing height of tyres?
so on the rear, you've got a couple of options. One is the strength of the spring. So if we're up here, can we make that spring softer to bring the seat down? That's your first option. You can also open the compression damping up. Sit it down. You still have to going to put grease on the shaft to see if you're that 2 to 3 millimeters off the bumper. Am I safe? Because when you do this, there's a lot less leverage. As you bring that down, the leverage increases. Does that make sense? So at that point, your first port of call is the spring. Second point of call is your compression damping if you have it. If you do not have that, and you cannot correct it in the front, and you still got half the travel unused, you change the spring on the shock to a softer spring. So you can go those 3 steps because there is no physical way to shorten the shock without taking it apart and putting a spacer inside of it. So conversely, if you're all the way down here, on some rear shocks, the mount has a stud going through the frame. That's the top mount. Spend $4 in washers at the hardware store, open it up again. Yeah. So there are choices and options, but it depends what you're faced with. So again, the step back. What is my situation? What are my options? How can I fix it? Does that answer your question?